A Hunter in Teyvat, Chapter 12, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. Oh Lumine, you must have pulled a muscle in your leg as we landed. How clumsy. I said with subtle mock sympathy that flew over Amber and Klee's heads. Paimon on the other hand began giggling at Lumine as we all made our way back to Mondstadt, when Lumine couldn't help but palm that spot where I pinched her. So, who are you two? Are you the new Knights of Favonius? Klee asked excitedly as she looked back and forth to me and Lumine. Me and Lumine were sharing a horse as Amber had to track down Klee on foot and Lumine didn't mind riding the same horse as me thankfully as I wasn't interested in walking back to Mondstadt while they went on ahead. Paimon and Lumine are travelers, but Jake may be planning on joining. Paimon said to Klee as she floated above us all, trying to keep a bit of distance from the horses as they kept trying to nibble on her cape. Klee looked over me and nodded, and I couldn't help but chuckle at her frank words. Him. Well, I guess he can help me make bigger bombs with his anemo energy. She said happily, doing a little jig of a dance against Amber, making the older girl chide her for messing around on a horse. I honestly wanted to ask why Klee had pointed ears like an elf, but if it had anything to do with her absent mother, then that would just be rude, especially with how she had just run off into a cursed mountain after learning her mother had chosen to extend her expedition for another year, leaving her daughter behind. The thought that your parent was staying away with only the occasional letter being sent would mess with the minds of the child in question easily. So, is there some kind of teleportation system in this world? I asked Amber as although it was a game mechanic, I certainly did notice the weird floating statues scattered across Mondstadt and even a few atop buildings and one in a town square that matched the teleportation system within the game. Yes. Amber said, looking at us like we were absolutely retarded, but then she slapped her head as she looked at us sheepishly. I am so sorry, I completely forgot that you are travelers and how Mondstadt's ley lines are in ruins from storm terror. Amber coughed and seemed to gather her thoughts as she explained, and I noticed Lumine was obviously paying attention as well. Outside of Mondstadt, the ley lines are alright as far as I am aware, though that may be changing with the news of the Geovashamps and Liu acting up, and other than that I don't really know the other news of other nations, Amber explained, and then went on to saying how Vicen wielders are capable with the permission of the guild are allowed to use the waypoint statues surrounding Teyvat. But there were a number of rules that the Adventurers Guild put into place in using them. For example, no one attached to a nation's military would be allowed to use them, as that would allow the likes of the Fatui to simply teleport wherever they desire. To use them, you need to do two main things. Have a guild ID in good standing, and you needed to have a Vicen to protect you, as the waypoint literally broke you down like a Star Trek beam, sending us to the waypoint we wanted to go to, with our vision acting as an envelope to carry all our essence and prevent us from being metaphysically splattered across Teyvat. With the rules on no military use, none of the knights were allowed to use it, essentially. And with the ley lines of Mondstadt in such disrepair, even if people wanted to use it, it isn't safe. Amber sighed. It's alright Amber, I love riding horses. Klee consoled Amber, patting Amber's hands that were holding her steady. Well, Paimon thinks that is just another good reason to help deal with storm terror, Lumine? Paimon said, shrugging helplessly. Lumine nodded, and I could see in her mind the advantages in having a teleporting system around to help her track down her brother. Once we arrived back in Mondstadt and Amber took Klee back to probably be yelled at by Jean, me and Lumine saw Kia standing outside the gates of the city looking at us with his arms crossed over his chest. Oh, shit, we forgot about you. I said sheepishly, covering my face with one of my hands in shame as the eye-patch-wearing man strode over. Yes. You two literally left me sitting around in the park for half an hour before I decided to check in with Jean and learned you were given an emergency commission to bring back Klee. He said dryly before sighing and shaking his head, giving us a small smile. Look, I get that the potential danger Klee was facing probably distracted you, so it's fine. Just can you please listen to me, you two, I do need your help in order to retrieve a family heirloom. I had a whole game set up to drag a bunch of treasure hoarders, but if such a thing is going to happen, we need to move fast. Like tonight. I almost dropped at the thought of leaving Mondstadt again, as it was already past noon, and we hadn't even eaten lunch yet. Paimon wonders if there even is going to be payment, and this isn't just you trying to guilt-trip us. Paimon spoke, obviously suspicious about how Kia planned to pay us with him using some supposed family heirloom as bait. Humph, I am fully capable of paying you both for your help. He said dryly as we all stared, not believing him. You look like the type of guy who buys all his friends booze and ends up having to take out a tab to pay for the group, Lumine spoke, making me cough in surprise as Kia's face twitched as she likely hit the head in some way. He sighed and brushed his hands over his hair before he pulled out what looked to be a medal in the shape of a blue sculpted flower. Look, I was going to pay you both with these artifacts, and they are in the 3-star range, though I am unaware of their effects as I didn't want to take them to one of the alchemists or Lisa to get them rated. While Lumine was agreeing with Kia's offer, I was mentally screaming with my face having turned pale at a world-ending realization. I was going to need to farm artifacts to get stronger,